Welcome to the Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on taxes, financial independence, and equity compensation. Hosted by AJ and Shane of Brooklyn FI, each episode will focus on a personal finance topic, some driven by news headlines and sometimes driven by listener questions. And sometimes you'll just get two money nerds rambling about what they think is interesting. Just a quick note before we get started, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax or investment advice.
Hello, and welcome to the Liquidity Event. We're your hosts, AJ.
And I'm Shane.
And this is episode 105, being recorded on May 29th, airing May 31st. A quick reminder for you listeners, we will answer your questions on the pod if you leave us a message. You can disguise your voice and use a fake name if you're shy. The link is memo.fm/theliquidityevent. Leave us a message and we will answer your question. You get free financial advice. Who wouldn't want free financial advice, Shane? That was a question.
That's a real question.
It was not a rhetorical question.
Sometimes we go through the scripts and you just don't know when somebody.
You never know.
And
I was just seeing if you were paying attention. How are you?
I'm over here just read this French chic book. I'm great. I'm at my buddy's house in LA. I'm doing a little boys trip over here. There's three boys in this house. In between Houston, my niece and nephew's graduation, and going to Las Vegas for a conference. So love LA. The weather is perfect here, as usual. You're an LA girl. You grew up here. What are your thoughts on LA these days?
I love LA. I love visiting LA. I don't think it's a place that I want to live, but I love visiting.
Talk some shit. Let me hear it. Too much driving? Too much traffic?
I'm a New Yorker. I like to walk. I like to walk places. Being stuck in your car is soul crushing. I have a lot of people that I care about who live there, both family and friends, but it's just not a place that I feel like I fit in. I didn't fit in there when I was growing up. Like, I hated it. And then I moved to New York and I was like, oh, my people. And I still don't feel like my people are in LA. Not counting the 25 people that I love who are there.
Yeah, of course. People always complain about the people of LA, and I agree with them. You just have to find your little bubble of
exactly.
Your specific weirdos, which probably goes for most places. But
I mean, that said, I know people who have built beautiful lives there and have like amazing houses that have space and backyards and, cars and like have like a nice life. And I was reflecting on this the other day. Like, I had a very growing up in LA as a kid, it's a great place to grow up. You got like all the nature near you. There's like lots of like free activities for kids. Like, it's just a good place to grow up. And thinking about potentially raising kids in New York City, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, my kid's gonna like live on the pavement and like not get to like explore nature at all. But that's a topic for another day.
It takes a few hours to get into a forest that isn't surrounded by skyscrapers.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
New York City. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was in a waterfall yesterday. It took about 30 minutes to get there in a drop top Saab, and we're going to wine country this weekend. Yeah, that's going to take an hour to get there. Oh, we're going to Solvang. Is your mom there?
You should see my mom. Yeah, she'd love to have you. She would
Three
love,
boys?
Oh my God, she would love the boys. Oh my God, please visit Susie Silverberg. She will make you an amazing meal, like amazing.
All right. Oh, by the way, we're doing the full sideways recreation. We're staying at the windmill. We're walking to the hitching post. I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot the entire time.
That's like a 10-minute walk from where my mom lives. Like, you're going to have a great time. Amazing. You're in LA. I just got back from Savannah, Georgia.
How was that?
It was great.
You were golf trip?
A fantastic girls golf trip. Ate a ton of great food. Lovely city. It was funny. I haven't done this in a while, but my friend was like, hey, I haven't taken a lot of vacation at all. I started this job like almost a year ago. I got to take some time off. And I was like, we're going on a trip. And I had my Delta companion pass and we just kind of we're like, where should we go? That's like a, 3-hour flight from New York. How about Savannah? And we just the trip came together really quickly and it ended up being awesome. Highly recommend.
I need you to explain the companion pass.
Companion pass. So once a year you get a person can fly with you for free. Now there are so many goddamn restrictions on it that you can barely go anywhere. So any of the normal places that I want to go, like Los Angeles or Seattle or Chicago, you can't use a companion pass for those unless you book it like a year in advance. But for Savannah, it was totally fine. So my friend flew for free.
How did she make that up to you? What's the deal? What was
We just
y'all's
split it.
agreement on that?
We split the cost of one ticket. Yeah.
Okay, classic.
So yeah, I made it. It was like $150 for two of us to fly there. It was great.
Wait, and your grandfather's from Savannah, Georgia? He grew
My
up there? He was
grandfather,
born-
yeah, Murray Grossan was, I don't know if he was born there, but he spent his formative years there. And actually our last name, what's that?
How old is he now for the audience?
He is 100 years old. 100 years old, folks. Shane, I'm not going anywhere.
That's great.
Despite
That's
your best
awesome.
efforts, I'm not going anywhere.
Wow, no one tried to murder your grandfather. Well, he was Jewish in the 30s in the South, so maybe they did.
Well, actually, yeah, our family name was Grossman, which is a Romanian name and a Jewish Romanian name. And in order to get into medical school where they did not allow Jews at all this would have been the 40s or late 30s, early 40s at that point. He changed our last name from Grossman to Grossan to sound French and went to medical school in Savannah. And now it's like, I'm going to donate to this medical college. I was like, Grandpa, remember when they wouldn't let you in because you were a Jew? How quickly we forget the mistakes of our past. Anyway.
I guess I don't fact check that Jewishness is just last names and vibes.
Yep,
right?
pretty much.
Like,
vibes.
I mean,
it's all
obviously
vibes.
there's...
It's called tribe vibes, Shane. You wouldn't understand.
Some say I would. Some say I have a peculiar interest in tribe vibes, but
Okay. Anyways, that's all I got. Savannah was beautiful. Highly recommend a great little weekend there. Totally affordable, like killer, like really seriously delicious food and beverage scene. Lots of like young people doing interesting things with cocktails and food, and didn't spend a ton of money, which is always great.
Awesome.
That's all.
Cool. How'd you shoot?
Not very well. It was so hot and miserable that I was not having a good time on the golf course. So I was very frustrated and did not play very well.
Oh, you were sweating. You do hate to sweat.
I do not like sweating.
Is
Sweating is my enemy, and I sweat a lot. I almost like cut my bangs off because I was so hot. I was like, get this mop off my head.
Sweating is my enemy. I love that. All right, so what are we talking about this week, AJ?
This week we are talking about Ozempic, the weight loss drug extraordinaire that the New York Times has done a ton of coverage on. We always pull New York Times articles. I don't know why. For some reason, all the articles we talk about are from the New York Times, but they've got great coverage of Ozempic. A lot of different
all
ways.
The news that's fit to print. It's all in there,
exactly.
baby.
I was trying to think about how do we approach this as a financial advice podcast. Like, how do we talk about Ozempic's in the news? There are obviously financial implications. There are wider economic implications, especially because of the cost of Ozempic. Maybe let's start there. Let's talk about the cost, right? Ozempic is a weight loss drug that is now approved by the FDA for weight loss, correct? And it costs about $1,000 a month, which is very expensive, right? So if you are a person who has decided that you want to lose weight or you need to lose weight in order to maintain your health, and you want this drug to help you, it is going to cost you basically around $12,000 a year. Some insurances cover it, but as these articles we read say, it's very hard to get insurance to cover it now. And there's a few drug makers who are getting very wealthy off of this expensive drug. But first of all, financial implication for an individual, very expensive. Do you know anyone on Ozempic? Or
my sister's on Ozempic. She's actually on Mounjaro. So I guess there's a little bit of a delta there. There's 4 different types of GLP-1 drugs. There's, I guess the big names are Mounjaro, Wegovy, is that how you pronounce that?
Wegovy.
Ozempic.
Yep.
Wegovy, and then Zepbound, which I had not heard of until this article. And they're all GLP-1 receptors or antagonists. They just impersonate a hormone that we receive in our body naturally, right? And it comes from the pancreas, and it makes our stomach feel full when we take this agitator, right? So I'm not a scientist. I just read that word for word, but that's my understanding. My sister is a nurse.
I'm not a scientist, but I can read.
I'm not a scientist, but I'm literate.
Yeah.
Despite what the audience may think.
I'm no expert, but I can speak English.
And that's the only input I have for today, AJ. The rest is up to you.
Not like I have a PhD or anything, but I do have the ability to speak. So therefore, I will let you know my opinion.
As an accountant, I just see numbers like the Matrix all around me. No letters at all. It's just streaming arithmetic around me full time. I feel like that's how people see accountants. Like that's their point of view. That's so accountant of you. Anyway, my sister is on Mounjaro, yeah, and she loves it. Loves it. Anyone that I've heard that's been on it, loves it. It does have some gnarly side effects. So have you heard about yeah, by the way, I can't wait to get into the financial planning perspective of it. Let's start with like the qualitative, just like retail version of it, like what people are going through when they're taking these drugs. Like they did some wide studies, and apparently if you're on it for 6 months, it's pretty typical to lose 20% of your body weight. Which is,
whoa.
I mean, you would be 14 pounds if you lost 20% of your body.
Oh my God, you think I'm skinny? Thanks.
Well, I read my own numbers as well. I'm like, all right, that would be 40 pounds. I would lose 40.
Yeah, I would be
$40. Yeah. But I guess somebody like me is not on it. I have like a naturally insane metabolism. So, but if you're getting coverage.
I'm Shane Mason. I'm 6'2", and I have an insane metabolism. Everything's great.
First of all, 6'3" for the audience, and for the 14 people that listen to this that all know me personally.
I cannot believe that our social media team has not done I'm looking for a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes. We have one of those. We have one.
Oh, right. Yeah, those.
I'm looking for a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes.
I'm looking for a man in finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes, finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes.
It's you.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, trust fund. You don't have a trust fund. Sorry, I forgot about that one. But you do have a very successful cash flow positive business.
I made my own trust fund, baby. Fuck the estate tax.
Anyway,
friend of ours just had a Lake Como wedding, hasn't worked a day in his life. Anyway, so yeah, so where were we? I like the second version of our podcast where we just flail about.
Where we just like flap about like walrus on the seashore.
Have you seen Tusk? No, anyway, we can't get off track. So from a financial planner's perspective, I hear you, $1,000 a month, pretty expensive. What do we want our audience to be spending on drugs of this nature, AJ? I mean, we had an episode about spending $40,000 a year on an Equinox membership that includes a personal trainer. Is this the lower brow version? Like you're going to lose 20% of your body weight, which is going to extend your life for a third of the price.
Yeah,
less than a third of the price.
What I want to talk about is something that I think you and I both share. It's like when you have money, when you have disposable income, what better way to spend it than making yourself happy and healthy and fit, right? Like if you have money, you want to extend your life. And if weight loss has been an issue for you and is a barrier to you being a healthy person, spend all the money on it if you have disposable income. And I think that's part of the... Is
that your official advice? Spend all your money on it?
Spend all your money on your health. Absolutely. Life is short, kids. Yeah. Like, I think part of the Ozempic debate is that it is so expensive and out of reach for so many, mostly Americans who need it because we have a serious obesity problem in this country. And like, we're generally fit individuals. Like I have so much empathy for people who try to lose weight and can't lose weight. It's like, oh, just go to an exercise class, like go for a walk. It's like, what if I can't? What if exercise classes are, mentally, devastating for me? What if I can't go to the gym and lift weights because it makes me feel bad or I literally can't do it? Like if a drug can help me get on that health journey, fuck yeah. Insurance companies should cover 100% of this in my non-medical doctor opinion.
Yeah, I hear you. I think this is one of those things that should be universally covered, right? If we had universal healthcare in this country, I think this would make the list for the drug. Well, they're very new. We've only had these drugs for about 3-4 years.
That's the issue, right?
Novo Nordisk created Ozempic about 3-4 years. A little Freudian slip for the audience. About 4 years ago. But a big part of this article is that we don't have long-term studies. That it really does close on the fact that, like, it's going to suck when the negative long-term side effects come out. Like you lose all your hair, or
pretty negative.
It increases your chance of Alzheimer's by like 70%. Like there's going to be something, of course, but a lot of the inflammation, the weight loss, the curbing of drinking, all of these positive side effects that we're seeing in the short term are just going to be hard to override. And that it ends on a pretty funny article. Like an endocrinologist is like, we don't know the long-term side effects. These are drugs for serious conditions. It's not to help you get into a skinnier dress for the summer. I love how she just like gets to the point. Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Of course.
I was like, that's a good idea. Thank you for that.
Wait, so you're saying that for $1,000 a month, I can stop worrying about my weight forever and I might lose a little bit of hair? Like, sounds fine. I mean, look, weight is such a personal struggle for, I'm going to go ahead and say most people. I'm going to say most people struggle with their weight in some capacity, whether it's body image or detrimental health consequences. Like, I don't know. I think yes, it's new. Yes, there are potential harmful side effects, but like, there's so much money to be made, as we've seen. Novo Nordisk is like adding 2% GDP to the entire country of Denmark. Like these are big money making drugs. Like, they are going to be studied. Like, they're going to fix the side effects, hopefully. I mean, like any giant revolution in medicine, like think about like early blood pressure drugs, like early AIDS drugs. Like, of course they're experimental. Like, that's the point, right? That's why we have the FDA to regulate these things. And people are going to use them off label, as we have been doing since the dawn of time.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a paragraph on pharmacists that are compounding these drugs on their own. Like, I was curious if I was going to put you in an ethical dilemma. Like, if you were a pharmacist that could compound the semaglutides that make these drugs work. There's actually 2 drugs. I can't pronounce the other one. That's the one that Wegovy, I think. Anyway, so they both essentially have the same side effects. Would you be compounding? Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and this is for the real ones, by the way. Acid reflux, stomach pain, discomfort. Older people that are at risk of being
like
frail will lose muscle mass.
I was reading the side effects and I was like, yeah, if you're a person who suffers from gastroenterological issues, like, yeah, like those symptoms happen every day.
Sounds like you're on a first date with me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So at least you'll lose some weight. No further jokes. So would you be compounding? Apparently, the pharmacists that are compounding these themselves are like having like a terrible side effect. Like, it's really fucking people up. The unauthorized versions of it, and unfortunately, we got like some back alley semaglutides happening here. We got some Joan Didion semaglutides happening.
Yeah, I mean,
did you get that joke?
I did not get that joke.
She has that book about the girl that gets a back alley abortion that died. Anyway, sorry. Deep cut Joan Didion.
I've read The Year of Med. Yeah, anyway. Love Joan Didion. Haven't read all of her work.
That was too obscure. Sorry. All right, moving on.
First of all, I'm not a pharmacist because I think I would be too... Like, I would want to help too many people. And I would start by making the compounds to try to help as many people as possible. But sure, as soon as very negative side effects started showing up, I would stop.
Yeah. All right. So you want to kick into the financial planning element of it? We can talk about the drinking. I would like to talk about the drinking side effects as well. But like the financial planning element is really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll do the drinking thing really quick. So apparently, for some reason that nobody understands, when you start taking these semaglutides, you just don't want to drink anymore. And Times has another article about people that during COVID were drinking heavily, and then it actually includes how much they drank. And I did a spit take because
these heavy drinkers drinking 1 glass of wine a night.
No, it was 2. 2 glasses of wine. She like gone off the deep end and had half a bottle of wine every night. I was like, okay, first of all, that's like $8 worth of wine, and it's 2 drinks.
What kind of wine are you drinking?
You put me on $2 Chuck. Remember, you're the Trader Joe girl.
Oh, I did. Anyway,
that's not what I drink, but. Yeah, there's a 73-year-old guy that drinks 2 beers per night. I love how detailed it was about how much he drinks. It's like, they know who they're talking to. It's like the 73-year-old guy he was like, yeah, I used to drink 1 beer when I sat down at dinner, and I'm giving him a southern accent.
Yeah, here we go.
And then I would smash that one. He doesn't say smash. And then I would drink another one about halfway through dinner. And I was like, damn, you are a 73-year-old bachelor too. And the TV's on while he's drinking this beer. And he does not have a kitchen table. Anyway, so yeah, these people drinking 2 drinks per night are seen as heavy drinkers but when they start taking Ozempic, they just it makes them nauseous to see it. Kind of like those drugs that will make you throw up. It's like it's like a reverse Dramamine, where it actually makes you nauseous to even see alcohol. Wow. Like it just makes you detest it. Like I'm good on that. It takes all the joy out of it.
Oh, it's like men can experience what it's like to be pregnant. That's so fun.
Is that what happened? Do you get that?
No, but like you know, the morning sickness is like nausea and that, and also you're not supposed to drink while you're pregnant. So, men can have a little solidarity with their pregnant wives.
But in this case, we lose weight instead of gaining a
like
a belly.
For men, it's always works out better for y'all. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the side effects are worse for women too. Anyway,
Let's take a look at the. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's get into the financial planning, like just like the creative elements of what you should do with this information. Because imagine a world wherein everyone has lost 20% of their body fat. One of the cool side effects that I've heard about this is that because airplanes are so. Have you ever been in a small plane and they're like, what did you pack? Like, do you have?
I've been weighed on a scale because I need to balance the plane out.
Right.
With my luggage. Put your luggage on that scale and ma'am, you step on this scale.
Right. Yeah. Well, apparently it's going to have a dramatic impact if these drugs go mainstream, so to speak, or they're more widely available. We're going to lose, millions or billions of pounds on Americans, and we'll just get more fuel efficiency from our flights. And so that gets you thinking, like, what other elements, like buses are going to have more fuel efficiency, trains will have more fuel efficiency, every car, if it just has, you can put more people on elevators.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess the elevators will be the same, but so you extrapolate from there and you try to think of second and third order effects, and then you can start picking stocks based on these things going mainstream, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
if we're paying the same price. Go ahead.
I was going to say, economists are trying to quantify this, right? They're trying to say, what is the impact going to be? There was a Goldman Sachs study by their chief economist, Jan Hatsuis, who said if 60 million Americans took one of these GLP-1 drugs, the GDP could grow by 1% in 1 year. So imagine our literal production and our economy, because of all the reasons you mentioned, right? We're just going to get more efficient. More people are going to be able to work. Fewer people are going to be on disability. There's a lot of, if the medical side effects lessen or can be overcome, there's going to be a lot of positive impacts to society if we can get obesity in check, right? What's the greatest expense for most Americans is healthcare, right? What if we can rein that in? What if we can reduce the national budget spend on healthcare and bring down insurance costs because people are healthier? That's pretty positive, I would say.
Love that. I love GDP increasing. Got to get that GLP for the GDP.
I think people don't like that Novo Nordic, whatever you want to call it. I think people don't like that it's not a U.S. company. It's a Danish company.
Well, that's 2 huge inventions in the biopharmaceutical space coming out of Northern Europe, including the COVID mRNA vaccinations. So shout out to our European brethren. Yeah, Novo Nordisk is only up 60% over the past year. I pulled the stock price. I mean, that's huge. That's great.
Only up 60%. But yeah, you would expect this headline-grabbing, potentially societal movement-making drug only up 60%. You would expect. You're disappointed. What would you wanted 2x? You wanted 200%?
It just bums me out that fucking Meta is up 300% over the past year just because they decided not to create the metaverse.
Yeah.
It's just they just run unregulated monopolies, right? Whereas we create this incredible drug that could have side effects, but they're definitely not going to be as bad as the effects on teenage women that Meta has enacted on our society, right? We just have no regulation in the social media space. They can't be held liable for anything. Meanwhile, they're creating these amazing drugs and your stock price goes up 60%, right? You're increasing GDP by 1% with a goddamn drug. It's an incredible unlock. You've saved billions of lives with the mRNA vaccinations potentially. And you're up 60%. The things that you have to do. Meanwhile, a couple strings of code and we get targeted ads and a little algorithm that ruins our lives and you're up 300%. I don't know. Just drives me a little crazy. Anyway, love our clients. Shout out to those that work at Meta.
Anyway, if you have RSUs at Meta, obviously Shane will not be working with you.
Get your bag.
You'll be working with one of our
Collect
other
that bag.
fantastic CFPs. What else? I don't know. I'm excited to see where this goes. I find biotech fascinating. I wish I knew more about it. Like we started off joking, like we're not PhDs, we're not medical doctors, but like I do find this stuff fascinating, and like I don't know. I feel like I'm about to get like obsessed with it and start reading the medical journals because, I don't know. Weight struggles with weight, like they run in my family. Like I've seen so many people I love like go through it. Like we all go through it. It's really hard. It's so wrapped up in how you see yourself and how the world sees you. And if you can take a little shot or pop a little pill, there's now pill forms coming out of some of these drugs. Like people are like, oh, I don't want to take a shot. Like fine. Now you pop a pill and you inhibit your appetite and you can be the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. Like, it seems like a pretty good idea to me.
To your point, I saw my sister was like, oh, I got to take my Mounjaro. I was like, can you show me? I want to see. I also watched my friend give Botox yesterday. All the nurses in my life, they're just like live on a different plane. I just love how familiar they are with like the vicissitudes of the human body. It's just fascinating being friends with nurses.
They're just like popping out needles all the time.
Yeah. And like their side, one of my friends is a nurse, and here in LA, I was at her house. She's like, oh, some girls are coming over to get Botox. You want to like hang out? I was like, of course I want to hang out. And I posted a story of her doing it, just like needling to other. Anyway, so my sister, I was like, can I watch you do your Mounjaro? And it's like really foolproof.
Shane's a great follow on Instagram.
I like to think so. And she just jabbed herself in the ass with this needle that was kind of foolproof. It's like, it's got like an edge, and all you do is put it up to your butt and push, and it goes in, and then you throw it away. It's pretty foolproof. So yeah, some people just hate needles, but you dodge the liver, I believe, when you use a needle instead of going through the mouth hole. So anyway, let's move on. Do we have a definitely post that one to Insta. Just jab it in your butt instead of using the mouth hole. Leave it in. Do not cut that.
Anyway, should we hear from one of our listeners? Anything else you want to say about Ozempic?
No, I'm really excited to see where this goes. Unfortunately, the economics are slower in this regard.
Yeah. I feel like the same thing I've been saying about like crypto is sort of how I feel about this, which is like, ooh, exciting new technology. Like, don't know where it's going to go. Really excited to see how it might change everything. But also the side effects could be so bad that it might just end up it's not going to be enough of an impact as some people are predicting. So that's all I'll say on that. I've got a listener question for us that I'm going to play live for us right now.
Every year, my landlord raises my rent. I live in a big corporate complex, and no matter what I do or what the company does or the quality of the building or anything, they raise the rent. After COVID, it was a 40% increase on my rent, which was insane, but I felt like I got a good deal to start, so I stuck around. And this year, they just gave me another 8% raise. So I'm trying to figure out if it's worth leaving, if I can find other things in the market, or if I should just stay because the cost of moving is so high.
Okay. So my rent's going up. My rent went up 40%, and then my rent went up 8%. So it sounds like this person got a COVID deal, perhaps, and then was paying market rate, and now we're getting an 8% increase, which is roughly about inflation these days. What do you think? Should they stay or should they go?
I mean, it really depends on where. It's probably a bummer that they can afford to pay $3,500 a month in rent, but the bank won't let them get a $2,500 a month mortgage, I would wager.
Super annoying. Yeah, just because they didn't have a high enough paying job to save for a down payment by the time I'm going to guess this person is in their 30s. It sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big shout out to BlackRock for buying a few 100,000 single family homes. Huge fan of that. There's also just hasn't been a ton of construction, unfortunately, construction just got demolished by COVID. So a big part of the housing crisis or the housing cost, issues is that we're just not building enough homes. There's a lot of NIMBYism. LA is a huge example
Can you
of
explain
NIMBYism.
NIMBY?
San Francisco. Yeah, not in my backyard is this idea that people that already have their bag or essentially have their single family home don't want to allow other new construction in the area, especially mixed use buildings or buildings that aren't other single family homes, because any apartment complex that could potentially have lower income people moving into it or a mixed use case is just going to be less charming than a ton of single family homes, the traditional white picket fence. So there are a ton of boomers that have, not just to call out boomers, but they're just like an easy layup here that just say, not in my backyard, you're not going to build that thing, you're not going to change the zoning laws. They actually show up for neighborhood board meetings and they control what the neighborhood, they have time because they're already rich, they've already gotten through their earnings years, and they get to control the local real estate. So that you do get to see there is that technology group that's trying to build a new community. They're going to try to build a few 100,000 homes outside of San Francisco. I forget the name of that. Well, we should probably do an article or a podcast episode about that in the near future. But it's just really hard to get through the red tape that the NIMBYists, as you might call them, would allow to build these high density neighborhoods in places like LA or Phoenix or, New York obviously is a super high density place already. But that's a whole different story. We shouldn't use New York as an example of the billionaire's playground. But yeah, so I don't know what to tell your audience or this listener. 48%, that's a nightmare. But the cost of moving is also a nightmare. I remember reading that the moving is one of the most psychologically traumatizing thing that you can go through. And unfortunately we have to do it all the time. I lived in like 10 different places last year because it was very nomadic. And you just get used to living out of a bag, but every time you move, you lose something, you forget where things are. You just like have that psychological burden. It's like up there with with divorce or loss of a loved one. Like
I love moving. I disagree.
Yeah?
I love moving. Yep. I love moving. It's a fresh start. I mean, it's a pain in the ass for sure. I moved a bunch in my 20s. I moved apartments probably 7 or 8 times. Moved in with a boyfriend, broke up, moved out, got some roommates, went on Craigslist. Like I was just moving all over New York and got to live in a bunch of cool places. I also had no money. So none of the apartments were particularly nice. Yeah. She asked the question, right? What's the opportunity cost of staying or moving? Right. And right. If you love your apartment and you could see yourself living there for a while and look around, if you can find something better for cheaper, move. If you're ooh, that place I like is $1,000 more a month, then stay, right? It's always about what does the market tell you about your current situation? It sounds like you got a pretty good deal and it sounds like you maybe couldn't really afford the place in the first place. And because of this COVID economic cycle, you got a below market rate for, I'm going to assume, a high rise that's in Manhattan of some kind that now is unaffordable. But maybe you got a raise at work, or maybe you got a new job, or maybe you now have a partner and maybe it's become more affordable. So you might need to divorce yourself a little bit from the actual numbers of saying, or the gut punch of holy shit, my rent went up, $1,000 a month or what have you. That's all.
Yeah, I'm just going to look up the Restoration Hardware stock is flat for the last year, unfortunately.
Yeah, because rents are going up, interest rates are high. It's housing. We absolutely need to do an episode. We should do a series on housing, Shane. We should talk about renting. We should talk about buying. We should talk about mortgages, all that stuff, because that's what's on people's minds. It feels very difficult to live in a big city right now, even if you have a lot of money. That's I think what people are struggling with is I did all the things. I went to school. I got the advanced degrees. I got the job that pays well. That was not my dream job. And I still can't afford to put my family in a 2 or 3 bedroom normal house in a okay school district. So I feel the frustration.
Welcome to being a millennial, listener.
Yeah, totally. It's frustrating.
The deck is stacked. Let's go.
The deck is stacked. I stay where you are. Moving sucks. Wait it out another year. 8% is fine. That's my final answer.
You want to read us out?
Sure. Thank you, folks, for listening. Email us your financial problems at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com. Leave us a voicemail at memo.fm/liquidityevent. And obviously, we'll play it on the air. We will see you next week. We are going to talk about housing in depth. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.